Buenos dias, and live from the beautiful Mirador here at Restaurante Don Roger, just outside of Uvita, Costa Rica. And if this is your first time tuning into the live broadcast, what we do, I do a little bit of chatting, maybe for about 5-10 minutes, and then we flip out to the view, which is beautiful today. And low tide today is at 7:24 a.m., which is just about there. Another 10 minutes, and we're gonna have like absolute low tide, so you can see everything like the ultimate view of the whale tail. And just a few bits of info. There's a little bit of there's always a little bit of outside noise because this is Costa Rica. You're going to hear barking dogs. You're going to hear there's a backhoe going over there, and also Route 34 goes right through here, and that's the the road that goes to Panama. It's where all the traffic goes. So there's a hill there, and sometimes there'll be some jake brake noise. But I mean, I just saw four scarlet macaws flying overhead. So there's a mixture of that. That's the thing about Costa Rica. It's you do have that immersion in the jungle feeling, but you also have the normal day to day life, especially if you live close to town. So that's what it's like the reality of Costa Rica. It's not the fantasy of Costa Rica, the reality, and it's good. I mean, it's a mix of things. Okay. Oh yeah, and another thing. Sometimes the transmission isn't great because of the Wi-Fi in Costa Rica can be variable, which it is here. Sometimes if you log in and out, if you're having problems, that can help. But some days it's fine, some days it's not. But if it's not, you can you can try that. And also on different devices, sometimes the live stream is better. So little tidbits here. Happy Star Wars Day. May the fourth be with you. I have a few Star Wars fans for friends, and they go nuts on this day. And yeah, I've had like a this is my humble brag here, but I've had like a huge jump in subscribers over the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure what's happened, whether YouTube is finally starting to like my content and showing it to more people. And I had one video, the 11 things I learned uh, since I've been in Costa Rica 2 years, and that was like over 1,000 views in a week, and it's like up to 1,500 now. And it's the style of video I like doing because it's like I put the topic and then I like in text, and then I talk about it afterwards. That's helps me think. So I love doing videos like that. So I'm going to be doing more of those. And my DECRA inspection, that's our inspection here in Costa Rica. And if you own a car here in Costa Rica, you have to do this every year, and it's a pretty rigorous testing they put it through. And a lot of people use a mechanic, have a mechanic take it. I know some people that take it themselves, but I've got my appointment set up, and I've got a mechanic that's going to take it in for me. I've got a few other issues with my car that I'm going to have dealt with, but that's part of when you buy a car here. It's typically an older car because cars tend to be expensive in Costa Rica for a lot of different reasons. And the final thing, I need to throw thanks out for everybody that's being supportive of my the new business venture here, the travel and relocation service. And 99% of people have been really supportive. I did have one person that was like all irritated and annoyed, and he said words to the effect of, "Why does every Costa Rica YouTuber have to charge for services? Blah blah blah. I don't want to pay for play." But tell you what, nothing has changed with this channel. I'm still doing the videos. I'm still answering questions on YouTube. None of that's changed at all. The only thing is now I'm offering a higher level of service to those that want it. It's that simple. But it has changed for this one guy because it was such a rude thing to say. And this is a guy that's asked me at least 15 questions. And I've very diligently answered all his questions, and I'm not going to be answering his questions anymore. So he's not allowed to participate anymore. I'm a nice guy, but you don't insult me, and you don't act in a rude way to me or anybody else. That's one good thing I like about this channel is I don't get a lot of idiots posting. So I'm glad I've got the high quality of subscribers. So if you're watching out there and oh, let's see, can I get? if you're watching out there, let me know what the weather is, where you are, or where you're tuning in from. And just gotta check them out. I make sure I have all my settings right. Okay. So if you're tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from, and throw me a like if you're liking what you're seeing. But I'm going to throw it out to the ocean because that's what most people are here for. So let's go see the ocean. And we're 4 minutes away from ultimate high tide right now on the Whale Tail. It's another mostly blue sky out there, which means it's going to be another really hot day. I was helping out at El Mercado yesterday, the farmers market, and it was probably the hottest farmers market I can remember. Everybody was sweating, myself included. So as I mentioned before, there's usually a little bit of a wild card of activity here. You never know exactly what's going to be happening because there's a lot of construction that is going on in the Uvita area, and you can hear a backhoe working off to my left. And you'll hear the traffic once in a while. You also hear the birds. The birds kind of overwhelm things, so that's good. But it's a typical Costa Rica mix. When I first came here, I wanted like a storybook environment where everything was, like I'm in a movie, like a jungle movie or something. But the reality is, if you live close to a city center or a town, I don't, Uvita really, you can't call it a city. It's a town. But when you live close to town, you're going to have a lot of activities of humans at work. And if you live in Costa Rica, the day starts very early. As soon as it's light enough to see, that's when the smart people are out getting their stuff done. Hey, buenos días. We are in at Restaurante Don Roger, and that's just south of Uvita, and it's the best place to see the whale tail. As far as it's an easy drive getting up here, and the view is, as you can see, is pretty good. And if you want to know more about this location, I've got a link to a video that I did of Restaurante Don Roger, and I've got drone shots that take you from the restaurant and go out to the ocean, and that gives you a perspective of exactly where this place is. And it's beautiful here, and the food is really delicious and reasonably priced. So I always like to do a plug for the locals here, and the owners are super nice. So what you're looking at out there is Parque Nacional Marino Ballena, and there's a little formation out there called the Whale Tail that only is revealed at low tide. It's revealed, only revealed completely where you can actually walk out to the end of the whale tail. And it's one of the things that Uvita is famous for. And the park is beautiful itself. It's probably the cleanest beach around, just because it is a national park and they have more rules and regulations. And you can't bring any kind of single-use plastic into the park, and your typical national park regulations. Oh, gracias. Perfecto. Gracias. So as tradition dictates, I need to just distract you just for a moment, just to see my wow, that's good. I love the fruit today. Today I'm getting the French toast. A lot of times I do get the typical here in Costa Rica, but like I really like the French toast and the pancakes here, so that's what it is. But also there's fruit there, so it's somewhat healthy, right? It looks very pretty too. Back out to the view. It's interesting, and I've been doing the live stream here for a while, and I've gotten to see the evolution of the cactus there that you see on your right. When you trim a cactus, it it sprouts all these other new little cactus leaves. I actually had no idea that's how it worked. The name of the restaurant here is Restaurante Don Roger, and there's a link in the description here that details the whole setup of this restaurant, and it's very easy. It's very easy. Like from Uvita, it's actually from my house. It's even with traffic. We do get we do have it. When I say traffic, I'm talking like at the intersection where my road comes out. Sometimes I have to wait a couple minutes, but even with traffic, it's 5 minutes for me to get here. So like from Uvita, it's no more than 5 minutes from Uvita to get here, and it's an easy drive up the hill. They open at 7 a.m., but they're also good for sunsets here too. Probably should do a live stream at sunset too. And right now there's actually a breeze blowing, which it seems like for the last couple of days we haven't had any kind of relief from the heat and the sun. But yeah, if you're coming to Ibiza, this is definitely a place you should go because the whale tail is probably one of the things you're thinking about, and it's nice to get a good view of the whole thing before you go there. That way you can see what you're in for when you're walking out to the whale tail. It is a little bit of a walk out to the whale tail, um, but if you take your time and rest on the way out, it's fine. But I mean, this time of year it makes a huge difference if it's a cloudy day or not a cloudy day. If it's a blue sky day like today, the sun's pretty intense, depending on your fitness level. There were license plate restrictions during COVID for the general area of Costa Rica, but for general Costa Rica, that hasn't been in place for a long time. Now I think there's certain areas in San Jose, like in the city, where that might be still in effect. But generally in Costa Rica, it's it that's no longer the case because they were doing it just to keep people from circulating as much. And also, if you have a rental car, you're immune to that. But since it's really not a factor because the COVID restrictions of any kind are over now. Yeah. So if you have a rental car, the, those restrictions don't apply. So even if you are going to the city, which I never do, I don't like San Jose. So I mean, I like San Jose. I just don't like driving around in San Jose. I'm not a fan of cities in general. But but your car inspections are done by your license plate number. Like for example, my license plate number ends in 5, so that means I have to go get inspected and I'm supposed to have it done by May. So that's and there was a little bit of a backup with the inspections because the companies changed. It changed from Ritevi was the name of the company, and now it's Decra. And it's as I understand it, it's the same buildings that you're going into mostly, but it's just the management has changed. Maybe some of the rules, maybe possibly, I'm not really sure, but it's something a lot of people are stressing out about because they don't want to get in trouble for not having their inspection, and it's been hard to get an appointment. But I've got my appointment for my DECRA. I'm getting it done in a couple weeks. But the thing is, if you don't pass the inspection, then you have to go and have all whatever needs to be done corrected, and then you have to go back again. I'm not sure about the second appointment if they give you an easier appointment, but I know they'll give you a slip of paper saying that you have an appointment scheduled. So even if you go to get your inspection and you don't pass, you'll have a some paperwork letting the police know if they stop you that you're in the process of getting your car inspected. Buenos dias, Senor Don. And Senor Don is celebrating milestone after milestone here He's been here just over a year, and I saw him last night. He was at his office. We call it his office. He's got a stool there at the um, Whaletail Brewery, and he got his residency card. He's no longer an illegal alien. Mucho gusto, KBT. So the little puppies here are kind of a little bit of a doorbell when anybody comes here. It's like a doorbell and burglar alarm worked into one. And then they're not really puppies; they're just smaller dogs. I call them puppies. So the tide is right where you want it to be for the best view of the whale tail right now. We're at the perfect low tide. I like when low tide is in the morning. It's an interesting thing because it makes every day different. Because at certain times of the day, when the low tide, if you have a low tide at sunset, that's kind of cool. If you have a low tide at sunrise, that's kind of cool. But the ocean is always changing its timing in relation to the day. So that's kind of it keeps things from getting well, I don't want to say stagnant, but from being too predictable. I need to pick up an adapter for an external mic for this. I've got a MacBook, and they've only got that USB-C adapter, so none of my mics plug into it. So I just need a simple adapter. So I'm gonna pick one of those up and then hook that in because like Senior Don was commenting that when I flip out to the ocean, a lot of the times it's a little bit harder to hear me. Oh, that's good. So the audio is better. When I talk, I put my head right next to the computer, so that might help. But yeah, an external mic would definitely help. So one of the things that I've been doing a lot lately is doing some sea kayaking and things, and we got the Vita Kayak Club, and like on Mondays we'll do little outings. We usually start at Playa Vagina, and this past Monday, I I got so dehydrated I couldn't believe it. Even though when we got to Playa Vagina, one of the guides, Henry, he climbed up the tree and knocked down about 10 coconuts and opened them for us to drink, which was very refreshing. But it was like an up and back trip. And by the time I got back, I was so dehydrated, and that was Monday, and it took me till Wednesday just to get feeling normal again. And I always preach about make sure you bring water when you're out and about here, especially the way the sun is right now. There's no cloud cover. I mean, there's a few clouds hanging out there, but there's not a lot of cloud cover to protect you from the sun. So sunscreen, a hat, and bring water and drink even if you're not thirsty. I was just gonna say, usually at some point the vultures do their little circling in front here because they were sitting on a tree over there. I was watching them, and sure enough, here they come. They're circling out this way. Buenos dias, Cake Black. It's raining in Albany. At least it's not snowing, right? But I really enjoy upstate New York this time of year because it is, you do get things greening up again. probably my favorite time of year, I'd say. I mean, the fall was pretty there, but it's just, it's cold, and it's just a warning that winter is around the corner. So I'm slowly approaching that 1,000 subscriber milestone. Less than 100 to go here. It's been a long road. I thought I would have been there sooner, but as I say a lot of times, I'd rather grow slowly and have quality subscribers than get the whole Facebook mentality crowd in. And I don't mean to disrespect Facebook, but you know how Facebook can get just people with just no filters and just no respect, just talking nonsense half the time. So I'm glad that we've got the group that we have here, and I know a lot of you guys have been watching since I was back in the States. I actually binge watched some of my videos from when I was getting ready to move. And that was part of the reason for starting it, because I did want to be able to look back on that and say, oh, wow, that was a lot different back then. I love the cherry blossoms and the apple blossoms in upstate New York. The smell, I can almost smell it now. And I used to be a hobbyist beekeeper back in the U.S. And this time of year, the bees would they'd be going nuts between the apple blossoms and other trees to the dandelions. It would just really be they're in their perfect zone. And there's a stingless honeybee here, and I've been thinking about getting into that. I at least need to do a video on a beekeeper that keeps those, because I've had them visit. Well, actually, they're living in the building next to me, because they like to live in, if there's a space in anywhere, they can build a nest there. So the building next to me has them in there. They're kind of cool. some of my older videos during COVID. It was a nice little time capsule for me to remember that time period and how really crazy it actually was. All the uncertainty of it all. 'Cause during the beginning part of COVID, I worked at home for a year, which was good in a lot of ways because I didn't have to. I had like a 40-minute drive to work, and I saved a lot of money on gas because of that, because of COVID. But then you lose the interaction with your coworkers, and you spend a lot of time alone. It was kind of isolating. So yesterday, I finally had this famous drink with my friend Danier, who he's at the coffee plantation. But they make this drink with his coffee. There's a restaurant called Mosaic on my street, and Mosaic is like a sushi place, but they have a lot of different food there, and they've got a huge selection of wine, and they've got beer there. But they make a martini using his coffee, and I'd never had it until last night, and it was really good. But the problem is it's got caffeine, and I don't like to drink caffeine after. I usually don't drink caffeine after noontime, just because I have a hard time sleeping if I have caffeine in my system. But the coffee martini made with Cafe Don Emilio was really good. Los dias, Doug. Yeah, it's kind of a blue sky day out there. It's already nice and warm here. I finally got smart, and I got one of those sunshades in my car, because even this time of day, if I get through a little bit after 8, my car is usually steaming hot. There's the old Jake break on Route 34. This guy seems to really like this Jake break. I think it's a Jake break. So New Jersey must be in full bloom right about now, I imagine. Jersey's the Garden State, right? Isn't it? Isn't that its affiliation or its nickname? Wow. Doug's talking about all the cherry blossom, or all the cherry trees and the huge cherry blossom, the cherry blossoms that they have there are pretty intense, I guess. So people don't realize that Jersey really does have a lot of nature and stuff there. If you've never been through Jersey, if you've only been through certain parts of Jersey, you think it's just all cities and warehouses and things, and it's definitely not. There's a lot of wildlife and nature in certain areas. They have their parks, and that's the same way when I'm here and I tell people I'm from New York State, so I live upstate New York, and I grew up surrounded by dairy farms and cows. So I always have to make the distinction. I'm from upstate New York. But it's like here in Costa Rica, it's so much different from one place to the other, and even in Costa Rica, you can do like a really short drive and have like extremes in weather. In the States, it seems like you usually have to drive a little further to get your change in your climate. Here, it's like a short drive, and you can be in a whole different world. Muchas gracias. And I think I brought this topic up before about passports, but I read an article, and recently this article said that there's a backlog in the States of getting your passport renewed if the date, passport's good for 10 years for a U.S. passport, and if you need to renew that there's a little bit of a backlog with that. Again, I mean, when I was getting mine, there was a backlog. But I was talking to somebody here that had to have a passport renewed while they were here, and they did it. I'm not sure if it was a U.S. embassy where they had it done, but it was a lot quicker to have it done here than it would have been to go through the process in the U.S. So that's all secondhand stuff, so I don't know if that's true or not, but it's food for thought if your passport is getting close to needing to be renewed. So Branch Brook Park, the cherry blossom capital of the U.S. It's funny how like Washington gets all the the publicity. I guess they've got the monuments in the background and all that. But it sounds like if you're interested in the cherry trees itself, that Jersey's the place you need to be. Well, the bees must go crazy there. The bees must love that. That's kind of the strange thing about being here in Costa Rica. There's always something blooming at some point. I mean, obviously, there's certain times of year where there's bigger blooms. But, like, for instance, like the coffee has like a really big bloom. As I understand, I'm not an expert on this, but like there was just a huge coffee blossom bloom. But throughout the year, there's at least one other bloom and maybe possibly another minor bloom. But that happens with a lot of trees that I see in my around where I live, around my house. That these trees will fruit like probably 3 times a year. They go through different cycles within the year. You don't get that wintertime die off. $7 to 10 days for the passport? Wow. No, I mean, when I was coming here there was a backup for COVID in 2021. So I've got videos on that, like on just waiting for the passport. But no, I've never heard of anybody getting it done in 7 to 10 days. You must be doing it right. Doug, you're doing it right if you're getting it done in 7 to 10 days. I should have linked the article that I read. But yeah, like having it done here, the guy I was talking to said he had it done, quickly like that. But like even the expedited passports were taking longer, according to this article. I'll have to re-research that again. If you go to the, yeah, it definitely was longer, but I read an article recently. So I'm not talking firsthand knowledge that it was a backlog. Have you renewed your passport within the last like 2 or 3 years? Because it's just got like things just have gotten messed up with all this kind of stuff. The reason for the backlog is because it's not a normal thing with this either, and it's not directly due to COVID, but it's due to the fact that so many people now want to travel again that they're a little bit overwhelmed with processing the passports. That's what this article said. I'm not talking firsthand knowledge. I'm just talking about what I was reading. I should Google that article. But on things like that, I'm always trying to be a step ahead of the game, because if you're trying to leave and you don't have your papers, it kind of sucks. Right. Yeah, you can pay the extra to get it expedited. So in this article that I read, probably maybe 3 weeks ago, I read things were going slow, and an expedited would take you 3 months, and non-expedited was 4 months, according to this article, which may have been totally incorrect. So I'm just throwing it out there. But if you go to the State Department website, they can usually give you an idea of how long it's going to take. But if it was like 5 years ago and you did your passport, maybe that would be definitely true that you get it done really quick, especially that expedited. But there's so many monkey wrenches getting thrown into everything these days. Yeah, you renewed it a good time when there before all the world went to craziness. But things that were easy at one point are not necessarily going to be as easy. So I'm not saying that I absolutely know that. I'm just yeah, and like I say, you never know until you try. You don't know what it's going to be. Maybe that article was they didn't know what they're talking about. That's what I try to avoid being Facebooky, where somebody will go on there and say, "Oh, it's this and this and this." I like to put things in the context of that. I read an article about this and it said that. A lot of people like will reply to some of the posts I put and say, "Well, Costa Rican law states this, this, and this." And I don't know if they're a lawyer or not. They don't. I don't know if their knowledge is coming from a great place. So when I throw out information, I try to put it in the context of how I came across it. So it's take everything with a grain of salt, but it doesn't hurt to be over prepared. You can hear some lattes though. Okay, what it says on the State Department's website is that routine passport processing is 10 to 13 weeks, and expedited is 7 to 9 weeks. So, yeah, that link goes to the U.S. State Department talking about the delay in passports. And hopefully they'll get caught up with this, and then by the time, well, you're 2019 to 2029, you got time. You're golden. I know the prices of flights, the price of air travel has rebounded pretty healthy for the airline companies. It's crazy. I bought a round trip ticket to New York City, and I had to drive upstate after that. But round trip to New York City from San Jose for is it 229 or 249? I forgot what it is. What it was at the time. It was really cheap, and now it's way more expensive than that. But if you follow Google Flights, there's some ways where you can find a decent flight if you're flexible and when you're traveling. But one of my problems is I live upstate New York and I fly into Albany, and I always have to have like massive delays. And I don't like hanging out at airports very much. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mentioned before. Getting a renewal at the embassy. I was talking to a guy a couple of weeks ago, and I was telling him about the how long it's taking to get your passport renewed, and he said, "Oh no, it's not. I just got mine done in up in San Jose." So yeah, if you're in the States, it probably will take you longer according to the State Department website. But if you're here, you can get it done quicker according to Don and the guy that I was talking to. So there's my secondhand information with my sources quoted. Yeah, I mean, it's like the States. It really is a good thing that passports they have a 10-year lifespan, because it would be a pain to have to renew that all the time. I'm glad I got one of the passports with all the extra pages in it, because all the stamps I've got on it from my trips to Panama and back to the States and things. It's so the my reason for just even bringing that up is, if you are planning to come to Costa Rica or anywhere else, just make sure that you get your passport stuff done ahead of time. Make sure that check your country's State Department website and see what the wait times are, and don't be surprised like at the last minute. Go, oh yeah, I need to do this, and that's the last minute. It's like, oh no, that just can't happen at that time, because it's such a helpless feeling, because that's one of the pieces of the puzzle that you need to make your journey. I can remember doing a video about what I needed to do before I could come to Costa Rica, and one was selling selling the house, getting my passport done. I forgot what the other thing was. I have to go back and look at that. But I should have done more outtakes from that era, because I was going stir crazy, and I was just I said there were some pretty funny moments that I didn't ever put in a video. I was just looking at some of the footage that I shot. But yeah, you're during COVID, if you were alone, you did a lot of stuff, crazy stuff, just to entertain yourself. Muchas gracias, Maria, and thanks for tuning in. Buenos dias, Michael. ¿Cómo estás? Oh, that's an interesting point. James was saying that he came into San Jose and he only had 11 months on the passport, and they gave him a little bit of a hard time about that. I know there. I thought it was more like if you had 6 months, they give you a hard time. But yeah, that sounds a little bit ridiculous. Like if you still have almost a year. I can't remember what the number that I've always seen. But I mean, logic would dictate that, if since like it's a 90-day tourist visa they're giving you, that it wouldn't, if it didn't expire within that period, logic would dictate that it would be fine. But logic doesn't always apply at uh, at the border, at the customs, as we all know. Yeah, things that used to be simple are all complicated now. It's like, what happened? Yeah, I'm always doing my best to not get deported myself. And after living in Costa Rica and then going back to the States, it's always a little bit of culture shock. But the border agents are always a little bit, uh, make me nervous. I don't know what there is about them. Is it the uniforms or what? But it and everybody knows how I struggle with my learning Spanish. But there's words that I have integrated that I use without thinking. And it's like, gracias and hola and a few other things. And very simple words, but I don't think about it. I normally do that. And I was coming back through and into the States for a visit from Costa Rica, and I was talking to one of the border agents, and he asked me something, and I said, "See." So then he started talking in Spanish, and then I said, "I'm sorry, I don't understand Spanish." And he's like, he got irritated with me. He's like, "It's either English or Spanish." And I was like, and I was like groggy for my flight, and I was like, "Oh, whatever." And just give me a hard time for no reason. And I wasn't trying to be a smart aleck. It was just that when you're here, you start, you're just happy to be able to use some of the words so they become ingrained in you. And I just wish the whole language was like the people who can speak multiple languages. I just wonder what they think. If they're thinking in Spanish and then they have to start thinking in English, it's got to be complicated. So as I was mentioning before about I've been doing a lot of kayaking with a group here in Ovita, and it's helping me to get over my apprehension of being out in the ocean because we're out there in a group of maybe a dozen people, and it's a huge difference that compared to being out there by yourself. It's a completely different feeling. So that helps me just get used to being out there. My brain only works in Fahrenheit, but it's I know I need to adjust to that because this is Celsius here too. But in Fahrenheit, it's in the mid 80s right now probably. The temperature's going up fast. It was just about 80 when I left, but with the way the sun is right now, it gets hot. It's been low 90s with high humidity and not too much of a breeze. You can see a few leaves moving at least. Every once in a while, a sweet breeze will come in, and it makes such a huge difference, especially if you're all hot and sweaty. Well, this time of year, it's supposed to be more cloud covered. Typically there's more cloud cover, but it's weather has a mind of its own, of course. So okay, yeah. Yesterday, I mentioned this before, but yesterday I was working at El Mercado helping out, and it was it was the hottest day I can remember being there. Everybody was really really hot. There was actually one girl at one of the concessions that actually passed out. I don't know if it was from the heat or something else, but she actually passed out. So it's pretty intense. So that's why to me like a blue sky day is it's beautiful, but I I really like it when the clouds roll in and it just takes the intensity away of the sun. I need to start taking my own advice about hydrating because you need to drink water even if you think you're not thirsty. Well, Don, does Vancouver get as humid as it does here? I know it does get somewhat humid. be in that sun too long, no matter what. You have a hat on and all the sunscreen. It's just so intense. I mean, you can get a sunburn if you're in the shade. If you go to the ocean, you can get sunburn in the shade just because you get the reflection from the sand in the ocean. Then the same's true if you go on a cruise, like bouncing in. And that's another thing here too. And it's one of those things that they know they can get more for it because there's such a demand. And plus, things are more expensive in Costa Rica in general because they're most things like that are imported. But I was comparing prices. I was looking at online at Walmart, and the sunscreen that I use, like at this Banana Boat 50 SPF Sports sunscreen, is it was around $8 in the States, and here probably I think it's close to $16. I'm not sure. I need to check that again. I wanted to do a little experiment for certain products, like we could do it like in a live chat where we could put have different items and have everybody put what it costs them where they live. Like for example, like a quart of milk or like a dozen eggs. What does it cost in your area? And I know eggs are cheaper here than they are in the States, from what I see. I was really surprised when I've driven the Alaska Highway a few times and driven up in Alaska. I was really surprised at like places in the Canadian interior how hot they can get, and in Alaska how hot Fairbanks can get. But the interior in summertime gets really hot. Yeah, and I think it's true in a lot of tourist areas that it tends to be more expensive to buy sunscreen, and it's also hard if you gotta. I like to get there's certain kinds of sunscreen that last longer. Like there's a zinc stuff that I use sometimes. It's kind of hard to find here, but it's more of a greasy thing. You get it in a like stick form, but you can also get it in gel form. It's kind of a messy thing, but it's stuff that won't come off as easy. It's even that sports stuff. They say, oh, it lasts even when you get it wet, and it maybe it does to a degree. But if you're in the water swimming or if you're sweating profusely, it's just going to come off, and then you have to reapply it. And if you reapply it and you're not dry, it just doesn't it doesn't stay on. it, it, it's so much easier when you can read exactly what's on the packaging with the sunscreen when you go to the States. Like here, I'll be looking at the different sunscreen. I'm like, okay, am I getting the right stuff? Because I was looking for the zinc stuff. It's like unless I take the tube out and I start squirting it out, I don't know what the consistency of it is. And yeah, I never got you anything for your birthday, Don. So maybe I'll have to pick you up some sunscreen when I go back to the States. I think a good topic of a video would be, what things did you wish that you brought to the States that you didn't? And one of the things is, it's real hard if you have like a US size 12 or larger foot to find footwear, and at least in the Uvita, San Isidro area. Like it ends at like European size 45. Is that right? 45 would be equivalent to size 12. But it's just, everything's just a little bit too small. So if I need shoes, I usually have to get them in the States, or I think you can get like Nike products and things that are like, like the fancy expensive shoes. But I'm not big into brands, although I do buy the cheap Nike shirts for $3 or $4 when I go to when I go do my Panama border run. Yeah, what do you get for the man that's got everything in Costa Rica? Oh, you give him sunscreen. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Costa Rica Story Live. Make sure you like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, but most importantly, share this video with a friend. And also, don't forget that Costa Rica Story is also a relocation service and travel service. And that doesn't mean that anything else has changed. Okay, so there's one dude that gave me some rude comments because I had the nerve to put a money making venture on here. He says it ruined the image or whatever, and he was bent out of shape. But it's not. The channel's the same. Everything's the same, except I'm offering a higher level of service to those who want it, and the link is down below in the description. All right. Well, thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate the input, and it's nice to have breakfast with my friends here on Costa Rica Story, here live from Don Roger. Hasta luego.